The rain hammered the stained-glass windows of St. Augustine's Episcopal Church like God's own judgment, turning the eulogies into a drowned murmur. Elijah Harper stood at the podium, his voice cracking on the edge of his father's name. Malcolm Harper, the unyielding pillar of Atlanta's Black Baptist community, architect of civil rights marches and quiet family dinners that always ended in prayer. But as the final amen faded, the oak doors groaned open, and a stranger in a drenched trench coat stepped forward, water pooling at his feet like spilled secrets. "I'm Isaiah Cole. And Malcolm was my husband." Elijah's world tilted, the bouquet of lilies slipping from his grip to scatter across the polished floor like fallen soldiers. Whispers erupted from the pews. Cousins, deacons, the mayor's widow, all eyes on this ghost with storm-gray eyes and a jaw set like carved granite. His voice cutting through the shock. "He loved me for 30 years. And he lied to all of you about it." The chapel fell silent, save for the relentless downpour outside, as if Atlanta itself held its breath for the unraveling of a life Elijah thought he knew. Elijah froze, his knuckles whitening around the podium's edge, the scent of wet earth and funeral lilies choking him. His father's casket gleamed under the recessed lights, a mahogany monument to a man who'd preached fire and brimstone from pulpits across Georgia, who'd raised Elijah with a Bible in one hand and a belt in the other when words failed. Malcolm Harper, husband to Miriam for 42 years, father to 3, community elder whose legacy was etched in bronze plaques at the MLK Center. Gay? The word slithered through Elijah's mind like a forbidden verse. Impossible. Obscene. "Who the hell are you?" Aunt Lorraine's voice sliced the air from the front row, her Sunday hat tilted like a cocked pistol. She was Miriam's sister, the family's unofficial enforcer, her eyes narrowing on Isaiah as if he were a pickpocket in the collection plate. Isaiah didn't flinch. He shrugged off his coat, revealing a simple black button-down that clung to his broad shoulders, water beading on fabric worn soft from years of wear. Mid-40s, maybe, with salt and pepper stubble and a gaze that pinned Elijah like a specimen under glass. "I'm the man your brother loved," he said evenly, stepping forward, his boots leaving muddy prints on the runner. "The one he met in '93, at that rally in D.C. We built a life in the shadows because he was afraid of you, of this town, of losing what he'd built." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Uncle Ray, Malcolm's oldest friend and deacon at Zion Hill Baptist, shot to his feet. "Lies. Malcolm was a God-fearing man. This is blasphemy on his grave." Elijah's chest tightened, a vice of grief and fury twisting inside him. He wanted to lunge at the stranger, to drag him out into the storm and demand proof, but his legs felt grafted to the floor. Memories flashed. His father humming gospel tunes in the garage, the way he'd hug Elijah a beat too long after football losses, the unexplained trips to New York that Miriam chalked up to church business. Lies. All of it. "Son," Isaiah said softly, his eyes locking on Elijah's for the first time, deep, haunted pools that stirred something primal. "Unwelcome. Your father wanted you to know the truth. He left you a letter. In my safe." The room exploded. Lorraine was on her feet now, jabbing a finger at Isaiah. "Get out. Security." 2 ushers lumbered forward, but Elijah raised a hand, his voice a ragged command. "Wait." Silence crashed down again. Elijah descended the steps, each one a plummet into abyss, until he stood inches from Isaiah. Close. The man smelled of rain and sandalwood, his presence a quiet storm. "If this is a scam," Elijah whispered, throat burning, "I'll bury you next to him myself." Isaiah's lips quirked. Not quite a smile, more a scar of old wounds. "Fair enough. But it's no scam. Come with me." After, Miriam, pale as the lilies, clutched her handkerchief in the front row, her eyes darting between her son and this interloper. Elijah nodded once, the weight of the chapel pressing down, and turned back to the casket. "We'll finish this," he said to the polished wood, as if his father could hear. "Then we'll talk." The service dragged on in fractured pieces. Cousin Jamal's poem about Malcolm's unwavering faith, the choir's tremulous, amazing grace, each note a lie unearthed. Elijah delivered the rest of his eulogy on autopilot, words blurring into rote scripture, his mind snagged on Isaiah's claim. Husband. The word echoed, rewriting history in real time. Had his father died alone in that hospital bed, whispering this man's name, or had Isaiah been there, holding a hand the family thought Miriam's alone? As the procession spilled into the narthex, mourners clustering like storm clouds, Elijah slipped away. He found Isaiah under the awning outside, lighting a cigarette with hands that trembled just enough to humanize him. The rain had eased to a drizzle, Atlanta's skyline smudged gray beyond the cemetery gates. "Letter," Elijah demanded, voice low. No pleasantries, no grace. Isaiah exhaled smoke, offering the pack. Elijah waved it off. "In my apartment. 10 minutes from here. I drove him to the hospital that last night. He made me promise. Tell you everything." Elijah's pulse thundered. Everything like what? That he was? He couldn't say it. The word too jagged. "Queer as the day is long," Isaiah finished, matter of fact, but his eyes softened. "We met when you were a kid, Elijah. He talked about you nonstop, your first touchdown, that debate club win. Said you were the best part of him." The familiarity stung, like salt in a fresh cut. "Don't pretend you knew him better than I did. I don't. But I knew the parts he hid." Isaiah stubbed out the cigarette, rain beating on his lashes. "Look, I get it. This is a bomb in your lap. But Malcolm built walls for a reason. Atlanta in the 90s, black, Baptist, and gay? That's a triple execution, social, spiritual, literal." Elijah swallowed, the truth settling like lead in his gut. His father, the moral compass of sweet Auburn, had lived a double life. Betrayal bloomed hot and sharp, not just from Malcolm, but from the family myths Elijah had clung to, the legacy he'd inherit as the prodigal son returned from law school in D.C. "Fine," he said finally. "Show me." They drove in Isaiah's battered Ford pickup, the wipers slapping rhythm like a metronome to Elijah's unraveling thoughts. The city blurred past, peach trees skeletal in the December chill, billboards for coke and civil rights tours mocking the facade of progress. Isaiah's apartment was in Midtown, a third-floor walk-up in a brick building etched with graffiti ghosts, the kind of place that whispered bohemian, but screamed survival. Inside, it smelled of books and brewed coffee, walls lined with shelves sagging under volumes of Baldwin and Lord, photos pinned haphazardly. Malcolm younger, arm slung around Isaiah at a Pride March in '94, both grinning fierce against a sea of rainbow flags. Elijah's breath hitched. There his father, alive in a way Elijah had never seen, unguarded, loved. "Sit," Isaiah said, pouring 2 mugs from a pot still warm. He handed one over, their fingers brushing electric. Unintended. Elijah jerked back, heat flooding his face. The letter was in a lockbox under the coffee table. Yellowed envelope addressed in Malcolm's precise script. For my boy, when the time comes. Isaiah unlocked it with steady hands, but his voice cracked as he passed it over. He wrote it last spring. After the diagnosis, Elijah's hands shook as he slit the seal, the paper crinkling like dry leaves. Elijah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And Isaiah's spilling the beans I buried deep. Son, I love your mother. God knows I do, in the way a man loves his anchor. But Isaiah, he's my North Star. We met fighting for souls we thought damned. And in him, I found grace I couldn't preach. The lies weren't cowardice. Not all of them. They were shields for you, for Miriam, for the work. Atlanta don't forgive men like us. But don't hate me for hiding. Hate the world that made me. And son, if you're anything like your old man, you'll find your own truths. Love fierce, even when it scares you. Forgive me. Be free. Dad. Tears blurred the ink. Hot tracks down Elijah's cheeks. He crumpled the paper, a sob ripping free raw. Animal. Isaiah moved without thinking, arms enveloping him, solid and warm against the chill seeping from the window. He loved you, Isaiah murmured into Elijah's hair. More than the secrets. Elijah clung, the contact a lifeline in the storm, grief morphing into something sharper, hungrier. Isaiah's heartbeat thrummed against his chest, steady as gospel rhythm. For a moment, the world narrowed to this, two men forged in the same fire, touching the edges of a truth neither had named. But Elijah pulled back, wiping his face, the letter clutched like a talisman. This changes everything. The will, the foundation, the family. They'll fight it. Isaiah nodded, shadows pooling in his eyes. Let M. Malcolm left half to me, the cabin upstate, the savings. The rest to you and Miriam. But the real legacy, that's ours to rewrite. As night fell, Elijah drove home to his mother's colonial in Buckhead, the letter burning a hole in his pocket. Miriam waited on the porch, wrapped in a shawl, her face a map of fractures. What did he want? She asked, voice brittle. Elijah met her gaze, the words heavy as Judgment Day. The truth, Mom. Dad was. He had someone. A man. Her flinch was a knife twist, but she didn't deny it. I knew, she whispered, eyes distant. Not all, but enough. We had an understanding. For the family, betrayal layered on betrayal. His mother's complicity, his father's exile. Elijah sank beside her, the rain resuming its dirge. How do you mourn a ghost? How do you rebuild on sand? Across town, Isaiah poured a whiskey neat, staring at Malcolm's photo. The boy, Elijah, had his father's fire, but none of the caution. Dangerous, that. And damn if it didn't pull at him like gravity. The funeral was over, but the real burial of lies, of legacies, had just begun. Dawn broke over Atlanta like a reluctant confession, pink streaks bleeding into the gray skyline as Elijah paced his childhood bedroom. The letter unfolded on the dresser like an indictment. Sleep had been a fugitive, chased away by visions of his father in stolen moments, kisses in rain-slicked alleys, hands clasped under church pews. Elijah, 28 and freshly single after a DC. breakup that left him questioning his own heart, felt the echoes too keenly. Was it inherited, this hunger for what society branded sin, or just grief playing cruel tricks? Downstairs, Miriam moved like a shadow, brewing chicory coffee strong enough to wake the dead. She set a mug before him at the kitchen island, her hands steady despite the tremor in her voice. Lorraine called at 5. Wants a family meeting. Says that man's a vulture, circling the carcass. Elijah sipped, the bitterness grounding him. He's not, Mom. Dad loved him. Miriam's laugh was a hollow thing, edged with decades of quiet endurance. Love. What a pretty word for the nights he slipped out, the holidays he spent on retreats. I raised you alone in this house. Elijah. Don't lecture me on love. Guilt stabbed, sharp as Lorraine's tongue. Miriam had been the rock, packing school lunches with notes quoting proverbs, cheering at graduations with a smile that never dimmed. For her, Malcolm's secret was a theft, not a revelation. I'm sorry, Elijah said, reaching for her hand. But hiding it. It dishonors him now. She pulled away, eyes glistening. Dishonor? He preached against it from the pulpit. Abomination, he'd thunder. Then come home to me reeking of cologne that wasn't mine. A pause, heavy as the humid air. I forgave because I had to. For you. For the life we built. The doorbell chimed, shattering the fragile peace. Uncle Ray, flanked by Lorraine and a notary from the family firm, their faces etched with righteous fury. We need to talk probate, Ray boomed, barging in without invitation. That Cole fellow's already lawyered up, claiming marital rights. Bigamy, fraud. Elijah stood, blocking the kitchen archway. Dad's will stands. Isaiah gets what's his. Lorraine's eyes bulged. His? That deviant gets nothing. Malcolm was straight as an arrow. Enough! Miriam's voice cracked like thunder, surprising them all. She rose, frail frame rigid. Malcolm was many things. Flawed. Human. Let it rest. But rest was a luxury none claimed. The meeting devolved into shouts, Ray quoting Leviticus, Lorraine waving printouts from some reparative therapy site, Elijah countering with the letter, his words a shield and a sword. By noon, they'd stormed out, vowing to contest the will in Fulton County Court. Family first, Ray spat at the door. Not some sodomite's fairy tale. Elijah slumped against the frame, exhaustion bone deep. His phone buzzed. Isaiah. Lunch? Need to talk estate details. Neutral ground, Piedmont Park? He hesitated, thumb hovering. Neutral. Yes. But the pull was anything but curiosity laced with that forbidden spark from last night. Fine. 1 p.m. Piedmont Park sprawled under winter's bare branches. Joggers braving the chill along paths lined with magnolias shedding last leaves like regrets. Isaiah waited on a bench by the lake, sketchpad in lap, charcoal smudging his fingers as he captured the water's ripple. Artist, then not the hustler Lorraine painted. You draw, Elijah said, approaching, hands shoved in his coat pockets against the wind off the Chattahoochee. Isaiah glanced up, closing the pad with a nod. Since I was a kid in Philly. Malcolm used to say it was my rebellion, making beauty from mess. He stood, taller than Elijah remembered, offering a paper bag from Belly General. Pa-boy? Shrimp? Extra hot sauce. Your dad's favorite. The casual intimacy disarmed. And Elijah accepted, the spicy bite a welcome burn. They walked the paths, leaves crunching underfoot. The city hummed distant. Isaiah laid it out plain. The will divided clean, house and foundation to Miriam and Elijah, cabin and half the savings to him. No overlaps, no drama. But the board at the Harper Center? They'll oust me from trustee if Lorraine pushes. Elijah chewed thoughtfully. She will. Ray's already rallying the deacons. Dad's legacy, their scholarships, youth programs, it's all tied to his moral authority. This blows it up. Isaiah stopped by the dog meadow, where a Labrador splashed after a frisbee, carefree. Moral authority built on sand. Malcolm poured his soul into that place. But he confided in me once. Half the donors were hypocrites. Same as him. Closeted. Cheating. Preaching perfection they couldn't live. A laugh escaped Elijah. Bitter. Pot calling the kettle deviant. Exactly. Isaiah's gaze lingered, warm against the breeze. You look like him when you smirk. But you've got your mother's fire unbent. Elijah flushed, looking away to the lake. Ducks paddling in lazy circles. The air between them thickened, charged like pre-storm ozone. Why tell me now? You could have slunk off with your half. Isaiah shrugged, but his eyes betrayed the weight. Because he asked me to. And because you're adrift, kid. I see it. Same way I was when we met, kid. The endearment chafed and comforted, stirring memories of his own fumbling youth, college hookups in dorm shadows, a boyfriend who bolted when Elijah whispered, forever. Adrift. Yes. But naming it aloud? That was a bridge too far. They parted with a handshake that lingered, Isaiah's palm calloused from charcoal and life. Call if the wolves circle, he said. I've got stories that'll make Lorraine faint. Back home, Elijah found Miriam in the study, poring over photo albums. Malcolm at Elijah's baptism, beaming, at prom, adjusting a corsage with paternal pride. He was good to us, she said softly, not looking up. In his way, Elijah sat beside her, flipping pages. Was he happy? With Isaiah. A long pause. Then, happier than with me. Some days. But he came home. Always. She closed the album, dust motes dancing in the light. What about you, son? That look in your eye. It's not just grief. Elijah's heart stuttered. The question hung, an invitation to confession. But the word stuck too raw, too soon. Just tired. Mom. Lies. Again. The Harper way. That evening, as Elijah scrolled LinkedIn for estate attorneys, a knock echoed, Lorraine, unannounced, bearing casseroles like peace offerings laced with venom. We need to unite, she urged over lukewarm green bean bake. That man's poison. I dug. Turns out he's some activist type. Protested Doma back in the day. Imagine the headlines. Civil rights icons illicit affair. Miriam stiffened, but Elijah leaned in. Or heroes hidden humanity. Let it be truth. Aunt Lo. Not your spin. Her face purpled. Truth? You're defending him? Elijah. Boy. You always were soft. Soft. He rose. Voice steel. Dad was soft too. Hiding who he was. I'm done burying ghosts. She left in a huff. Door slamming like a gavel. Miriam touched his arm. Careful, son. Family's all we got when the world's against us. But as Elijah lay awake that night, Phone glowing with Isaiah's number unsaved but memorized. He wondered, what if family was the cage? What if the stranger at the funeral was the key? Across the city, Isaiah sketched by lamplight, not the lake, but Elijah's profile from memory. Sharp jaw, eyes like polished onyx, a vulnerability that tugged at scars long healed. Malcolm had warned him once. Our boy's got a heart too big for this town. Isaiah had laughed then. Now, felt like prophecy. The wolves were circling. All right. And Isaiah, for the first time in years, felt the urge to howl back. The Harper Center for Civil Rights buzzed with midweek energy. High schoolers debating voter suppression in the auditorium, volunteers sorting donation bins in the lobby, but Elijah felt the undercurrent of whispers as he signed in at reception. It was 2 days post-funeral, and news traveled faster than gospel in Atlanta's black community. His father's face grinned from the wall mural, arm raised in a '68 March fist, oblivious to the scandal eroding his pedestal. Deacon Ray intercepted him in the hallway, clipboard clutched like a shield. Elijah. Board emergency session. Now, no warmth, just the clipped tone of a man who'd traded brotherhood for judgment. The conference room overlooked the courtyard, azaleas dormant under frost, and seated around the oak table were the gatekeepers. Lorraine presiding like a dowager queen, 2 lawyers from the firm, and a smattering of elders whose tithes funded the scholarships. Isaiah was absent, smart, Elijah thought, letting the storm brew without fuel. Ray cleared his throat, launching in. We've reviewed the will. Irregularities, undue influence, perhaps. Mr. Cole's involvement predates Miriam's knowledge, raising questions of fidelity, capacity. Elijah echoed, sliding into the empty chair. Dad was sharp as a tack till the end. Lung cancer didn't muddle his mind. Lorraine leaned forward, pearls clicking. But emotions? A midlife crisis. Secret liaisons, it clouds judgment. We propose amending. Redirect his bequest to the center's endowment. Honor Malcolm's true work. The room murmured assent, but Elijah's laugh cut sharp. True work? Built on half-truths. Dad funneled money here while living a lie. Isaiah's part of that legacy, the courage it took to love anyway. A lawyer, bespectacled and bland, adjusted his tie. Legally, we can challenge on moral turpitude grounds. Georgia still clings to traditional marriage precedents. Elijah's fists clenched under the table. Traditional. The word reeked of the Sunday sermons that had wired guilt into his veins. The sideways glances at pride floats from his dorm window. Challenge away. But you'll drag Dad's name through tabloids. Is that the honor you want? Silence stretched, taut as a wire, until Lorraine slammed her palm down. This isn't about headlines. It's about protecting what he built for you, for all of us. That man's a threat. To you, Elijah thought. To the tidy narrative where Malcolm was saint, not sinner. Meeting adjourned, he said, standing. I'll consult my own counsel. He stormed out, pulse racing, and nearly collided with Isaiah in the lobby, leaning against the mural, casual as sin in a Henley that hugged his frame. Eavesdropping, Elijah accused, half-smile betraying the relief. Isaiah pushed off the wall, grin crooked, perched like a gargoyle. Thought you might need backup. He nodded to the exit. Walk with me. They crossed to the Beltline Trail, urban pulse fading to birdsong and distant traffic. Elijah vented the legal jabs, Lorraine's venom, while Isaiah listened, nodding at the right beats, his presence a balm. "Sounds like they're scared," Isaiah said finally, kicking a pebble. "Of losing control." Malcolm always said the center was his redemption. Fighting for rights he denied himself. Elijah stopped, turning to face him. The trail curved through oaks draped in kudzu, sunlight dappling Isaiah's face, highlighting the laugh lines around his eyes. "Redemption for what?" "Loving you." Isaiah's expression shuddered, then opened like a book mid-chapter. "For everything. Growing up in the church, I thought I was broken, praying the gay away till my knees bled. Malcolm found me at a support group in '93, post his own awakening. We were both married then, fumbling in the dark. He chose the light with me, but never fully." The vulnerability hit Elijah like a gut punch. Isaiah, the intruder, stripped bare. "You regret it? The hiding? Every day." Isaiah's voice roughened. "But regret's a thief. Steals the good with the bad. Like those years in the cabin, fishing Lake Lanier, reading poetry till dawn. Worth the shadows." Elijah swallowed, throat tight. The air hummed with unsaid things, the space between them shrinking. He wanted to ask about the intimacies, the shape of their love, but settled for, "Show me the cabin sometime?" Isaiah's eyes lit, surprise flickering to warmth. "Yeah. This weekend? Miriam too, if she wants." The offer mended something frayed. "Deal." But Atlanta's drama didn't pause for détentes. That afternoon, Elijah's phone lit with alerts, a local blog post, civil rights legend's shocking secret. Was Malcolm Harper living a double life? Sourced anonymously. Of course, Lorraine's doing, no doubt. Comments flooded. Disgrace to the movement. Pray for his soul. Finally, truth in the black church. Elijah forwarded it to Isaiah, who replied instant. Old news. Malcolm prepped for this, recorded tapes. Letters. Want M? Tapes. Elijah's stomach nodded. Proof. Or Pandora's box. He drove to Midtown under gathering clouds, the city closing in like judgmental eyes. Isaiah's door opened on the second knock. Apartment warmer now with a fire crackling in the grate. Cozy. Lived in. A stark contrast to the sterile Harper Colonial. "Here," Isaiah said, handing over a USB drive etched with dates. Interviews he did last year. For a memoir he never finished. Raw stuff. They sat on the couch. Laptop between them. The first file loading. Malcolm's voice. Frail but firm. "Isaiah saved me. Plain and simple. In a world that says love like ours is wrong. He showed me God's bigger than the book." Elijah hit pause, tears pricking. He sounds free. He was. At the end, Isaiah's hand rested on the cushion, inches from Elijah's. Neither moved. "Play the next. It's about you." Malcolm's timbre warmed. "Elijah, my pride. If you're queer like your old man, don't waste years in closets. Love loud. The movement needs it, all of us, unbroken." The room spun. Elijah slammed the laptop shut, breath hitching. "He knew? About me?" Isaiah nodded. Gentle. "Guessed. Said you had that quiet storm." His words for it. Elijah's walls crumbled, sobs racking him, release, rage, revelation. Isaiah pulled him close without asking, arms a haven, murmuring nonsense comforts till the storm passed. When Elijah lifted his head, their faces aligned, breaths mingling. The kiss happened slow, inevitable, lips brushing tentative, then deepening with the ache of unspoken years. It was chaste, a seal on shared sorrow, but it ignited Elijah like dry tinder. He broke it gasping, forehead to Isaiah's. I can't, not yet. Too much. Isaiah cupped his cheek, thumb tracing jaw. No rush. Just know you're not alone in the storm. Elijah fled into the night, heart pounding, the USB clutched tight. Home was a minefield, Miriam asleep, but his inbox ablaze with Ray's email. Resign from the board, or we expose your sympathies. Blackmail, veiled as concern. He drafted a reply, fingers flying, expose what you want. Dad's truth is mine now. Send. The diecast. As sleep claimed him, dreams wove Malcolm and Isaiah together, fishing poles at dusk, laughter echoing, and Elijah, younger, watching from the shore, waving them in. But morning brought the backlash. Lorraine at the door, Bible in hand, flanked by deacons. Intervention time, nephew. For your soul. Elijah met her eyes. Steady. My soul's just fine. Aunt Lo. But yours? Might need some work. The door shut on her gasp. A small victory in the war for legacy. Yet, as he texted Isaiah, cabin this weekend. Just us? Elijah felt the thrill of treason, sweet as forbidden fruit. The rewriting had begun, one defiant line at a time. The drive north to the Georgia mountains unfolded like a reluctant apology, Interstate 85 giving way to winding backroads flanked by pines heavy with mist. The radio-cycling Motown tunes Malcolm would have hummed off-key. Elijah gripped the wheel of his rented SUV, Isaiah in the passenger seat sketching idly, the USB drive tucked in the glove box like contraband. It was Friday dusk, 3 days since the kiss that lingered like smoke, neither addressing it yet, the tension a live wire humming between them. Ever been up here? Isaiah asked, breaking the easy quiet, his pencil pausing on a half-formed ridgeline. Elijah shook his head. Dad's retreats. Mom thought fishing trips with Ray. Never invited me. Isaiah's jaw tightened, then softened. He planned to. Last summer, he said, bring the boy next time. Teach him to cast proper. A chuckle, wistful. Malcolm could barely bait a hook without cursing the devil. The image cracked Elijah open, a father fumbling. Human, not the icon. What else? Tell me a story. Make him real again. Isaiah leaned back, eyes on the rear view. All right. 98. AIDS crisis peak. Malcolm's preaching hope from pulpits, but privately, terrified. Lost friends, watched lovers fade. One night, after a vigil, he breaks down in my arms, sobbing about the hypocrisy. How can I lead if I'm the lie? I told him, lead by living. Next day, he funnels center funds to act up, quiet like. Saved lives, including mine when I got sick later. Elijah glanced over, struck by the quiet heroism, the man who'd marched with King now marching against silence. You were sick, Isaiah nodded, tracing a scar on his wrist, faint like a memory. Pneumonia. 03. Malcolm nursed me through it, smuggled me broth from home, lied to Miriam about overnight vigils. Closest we came to getting caught. The cabin emerged at trail's end, a log A-frame nestled by Lake Burton, porch swing creaking in the breeze. Smoke curled from the chimney. Isaiah had keys, had winterized it post-diagnosis. Inside, it breathed Malcolm. Plaid throws on leather couches, shelves of jazz LPs and civil rights tomes, a kitchen stocked with grits and bourbon. They unpacked in companionable silence, Elijah claiming the guest loft, Isaiah the master with its view of the water. Dinner was simple, trout grilled on the deck, cornbread from a mix, fireflies winking as stars pricked the sky. Over plates, stories flowed, Isaiah's Philly boyhood dodging stones for being soft, Malcolm's seminary days wrestling scripture till dawn. Wine loosened tongues, the second glass tipping into confessions. After DC, Elijah said, staring into flames, I dated Marcus, beautiful, brilliant. But when I hinted at forever, he ghosted. Said I was too intense, a shrug, masking the scar. Guess I'm wired like Dad, all or nothing. Isaiah refilled his glass, eyes reflective. Intensity's a gift. Malcolm had it, threw himself into marches, into us. Burned bright, but it scared folks. Me included. Sometimes, the admission hung, inviting more. Elijah leaned closer, the fire's glow gilding Isaiah's profile. Scared now? Isaiah met his gaze. Steady. Nah. Intrigued. The word landed soft, charged. They cleared plates, washed up side by side, suds foaming as hands brushed accidental on purpose. Upstairs, Elijah lay awake, lake lapping like whispers, the pull downstairs magnetic. He rose, padding barefoot to the landing. Isaiah waited in the rocker by the window, moonlight silvering his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Knew you'd come, he said, voice low. Elijah crossed the threshold, heart a drum. That kiss was right. Isaiah stood, closing the distance, hands framing Elijah's face gentle as prayer. This time, the kiss deepened unhurried, exploratory, tongues tentative, bodies aligning like puzzle edges. No rush, no conquest, just the slow unfurling of want held too long. They sank to the rug, clothes shedding like old skins, touches reverent, fingers tracing collarbones, palms mapping ribs. It was communion, not conquest. Isaiah's lips on Elijah's neck a benediction, Elijah's sigh against Isaiah's chest a vow. They moved together fluid, instinct guiding where words failed, the night wrapping them in hush. After, tangled in sheets borrowed from the couch, breath sinking, Elijah traced Isaiah's jaw. This us feels like betrayal. Isaiah propped on elbow, brow furrowed. To who? Malcolm'd want you happy. To the timeline. To logic. Elijah's laugh was breathy. Stranger at a funeral. Now this. Stranger. Isaiah's finger tapped Elijah's nose. Malcolm's ghost glued us. Call it fate, or physics, opposites pulling. Sleep came easy then, limbs entwined, the cabin a cocoon. Morning brought coffee on the porch, mist veiling the lake like secrets. They fished, Isaiah patient with the rod, Elijah all elbows and curses, laughing till lines tangled. But the idol fractured midday, Elijah's phone, service spotty, lit with voicemails. Lorraine, your mother's collapsing. Hospital. Now. Panic surged. Mom, heart scare, they're saying. Elijah bolted for keys, Isaiah tossing gear in the back. The drive south was agony, silence thick. Isaiah broke it. Whatever happens, I'm here. Elijah nodded, throat tight. At Emory, Miriam lay pale in ICU, monitors beeping steady. Lorraine hovered, accusatory. This is on you. Stress from your recklessness. Reckless, Elijah snapped, then softened at Miriam's side. Mom! Her eyes fluttered. Silly palpitation. But the fight. It's killing me, son. Guilt crushed. Isaiah waited in the hall, a sentinel, but Elijah waved him closer. Stay. Lorraine bristled. Him? Here. Miriam's hand squeezed Elijah's. Let him. Malcolm would've. The room shifted, enemy to ally in a heartbeat. As doctors cleared her for discharge, Isaiah fetched her favorite tea from the cafeteria. Lorraine silent, seething. Home. Miriam rested, Elijah hovering. Go back to the cabin, she urged. Finish what you started. For him, for you. He did. Alone this time, the empty space echoing. Isaiah called, she's tough. Like you. A pause. Miss you already. Elijah's reply, come back. Tonight. But en route, Isaiah's truck blew a tire, delay till dawn. Elijah waited, fire-stoked, when headlights pierced the dark. Not Isaiah's Ford, but Ray's gleaming Escalade. The deacon strode up, face thunderous. Found your love nest. Time to end this farce. Elijah barred the door. Leave, Ray. This is Dad's place. Ray shoved a folder, affidavits, witness statements from concerned parties, testimonies. Malcolm confessed delusions, coerced by Cole. Sign over the cabin, or we file for fraud. Ruin him. Betrayal iced Elijah's veins. Not just the lie, but the theft of this sanctuary. You desecrate his memory for property? For the family. Ray's eyes hardened. You're lost, boy. Like him. The punch landed before thought. Elijah's fist to Ray's jaw. Deacon crumpling. Horror followed. Blood on knuckles. Sirens distant. Isaiah arrived as cops cuffed Elijah, bursting from the truck. What the? Let him go, Ray. Nursing his lip. Assault. On top of the scandal, Isaiah's glare could curdle milk. You'll regret this. Station processing blurred. Mugshot. Call to Miriam, who bailed him dry-eyed. Isaiah waited outside, arms crossed. Idiot. But my idiot. In the parking lot, under sodium lights, Elijah broke. They're dismantling everything. For what? Pride. Isaiah pulled him into the truck cab. Kiss fierce. Then we fight. Together, as they drove into dawn, Elijah realized the real legacy wasn't plaques or cabins. It was this love, unapologetic, rewriting the rules. But the war escalated. Lorraine's lawsuit filed by noon. Headlines screaming Harper Air in assault shocker. The climax loomed. Betrayal's blade sharpened. Courtroom air in Fulton County smelled of polished wood and stale ambition. The gallery packed with familiar faces. Deacons in suits starched stiff. Reporters scribbling like vultures. Lorraine front row with a Bible embossed in gold. Elijah sat at the plaintiff's table, suit tailored but spirit frayed. Isaiah beside him as co-defendant, their lawyer a sharp DC. Import named Kendra who'd taken the case pro bono for the queer civil rights angle. It was week 2 of the probate battle. Ray's assault charge folded into the civil suit like a bad bluff. Dismissed fast when bodycam showed the shove first. But the real knife was the fraud claim. Isaiah painted as gold digger, Malcolm as senile victim, affidavits from eyewitnesses, swearing to manipulative trysts. Lorraine's masterpiece, woven from half-truths and holy disdain. Kendra rose, heels clicking. Your Honor, petitioners seek to invalidate a valid will based on prejudice, not proof. Mr. Harper was of sound mind, his bequests reflective of lifelong commitments, familial and otherwise. Judge Harlan, a silver-haired Baptist with a drawl like molasses, peered over glasses. Commitments, including to Mr. Cole here. Isaiah straightened, voice steady when called. Yes, sir. 32 years. Malcolm proposed in 95. Rings exchanged private. We lived parallel, me in Midtown, him in Buckhead, but hearts aligned. Gasps from the gallery. Lorraine's hand to her throat theatrical. Elijah squeezed Isaiah's knee under the table. Anchor in the gale. Cross-examination turned vicious. Ray's lawyer, a weasel named Hargrove, pounced. Mr. Cole, you profited from Mr. Harper's largesse trips, gifts. Emotional blackmail. Isaiah's laugh was steel. Love ain't blackmail. Malcolm gave freely, what he could without breaking his world. And the tapes. Hargrove waved the USB. Coerced confessions? Play M, Isaiah challenged. The courtroom speakers crackled. Malcolm's voice, unfiltered. Isaiah's my equal, my conscience. Without him, I'd be hollow, preaching justice I didn't live. Then, softer, to my family, forgive the deception. It was survival, not shame. Sobs rippled, Miriam in the back. Handkerchief twisted, even Harlan shifting uncomfortable. Hargrove pressed, but your influence, did you encourage his lifestyle? Lifestyle, Isaiah's eyes flashed. Love. Plain love. And yes, I encouraged him to be whole. As he did me. Elijah's turn came next, heart hammering. My father was no victim, he testified, voice carrying. He chose his path, us, the center, Isaiah. This suit, it's not protection. It's erasure, Hargrove sneered. And your involvement with Mr. Cole, motivated by inheritance. The gallery hushed. Elijah met Isaiah's gaze across the stand. Steady, loving, then faced the room. No. Motivated by truth. By seeing my father's courage in him. And yes, by falling in love myself. Murmurs erupted. Judge's gavel cracking. But the seed planted. Headlines shifted next day. Harper's son comes out in court bombshell. Activists tweeting solidarity. Recess brought Miriam to their side. Tentative. Proud of you, she whispered to Elijah. Then to Isaiah. And you, keep him safe. Like you did Malcolm. Isaiah nodded. Throat working. Always. But betrayal's shadow lengthened that night. Anonymous text to Elijah. Resign or we leak your tapes. Boy-on-boy college scandal. Bluffs? Or Ray's dirt-digging unearthed old dorm videos. Fumbling youth? He showed Isaiah over takeout in Midtown. Rage simmering. They're weaponizing my past. Isaiah's face darkened. Petty. But expected. Church folks love a sinner to stone. Elijah paced. Phone clutched. What if I fold? Let M have the cabin. The savings, keep the center clean. Isaiah blocked his path. Hands on shoulders. Fold? And dishonor him? No. We go nuclear. Nuclear, the memoir files. Unedited. Malcolm's full confessions. Naming hypocrites on the board. donors who'd funded anti-gay bills while closeted. Isaiah had held them as a last resort. But now, release him, Elijah agreed, steel in his spine. Let the truth flood. Kendra filed the countermotion. Dawn next. Exhibits attached. By opening bell, social media blazed. Harper Truth trending. Queer orgs amplifying. Even national outlets like The Root running the double life of a civil rights giant. Love, lies, and legacy. The board panicked. Ray calling frantic. Lorraine's voicemails tearful pleas. But climax crested in chambers. Harlan, post-lunch, reconvening early. Counselors, this suits a house of cards. Will stands. Assault dismissed. And Mr. Harper, Mr. Cole, congratulations on the union. Court adjourned. Cheers from allies. Stunned silence from foes. Lorraine fled weeping. Ray slunk out, defeated. Outside, press swarmed. Mics thrusting. Elijah, arm around Isaiah, spoke clear. Dad's legacy isn't perfection. It's perseverance, loving despite the hate. We're carrying that torch now. Miriam joined them, linking arms. As a family, but victory soured swift. That evening, as they celebrated at a quiet Inman Park bistro, Miriam toasting with sweet tea, Elijah's phone buzzed. Final betrayal. Ray, from a blocked number. You won the war, but lost the center. Board vote tomorrow, you're out. The knife twist. In the chaos, proxies had stacked the deck. Elijah's coming out. The scandal, it tipped the elders. Donors pulling funds. Parents yanking kids from programs. The Harper Center, Dad's heart, slipping away. Isaiah saw the text. Face grim. We rebuild. New name. New board, queer inclusive. Elijah nodded, but grief clawed. It's his dream. Twisted. Miriam squeezed his hand. Dreams evolve, son. Like us. Sleep evaded that night. Elijah in Isaiah's bed. Body close but mind adrift. What if it's too much? He whispered. The cost. Isaiah kissed his temple. Costs in hiding. This, it's freedom's down payment. Dawn brought the vote. Elijah ousted, but not silenced. He addressed the board one last. You keep the name, lose the soul. Dad fought for all. Remember that. Walking out, Isaiah at his side. Elijah felt the chasm. Legacy rewritten. But at what price? Betrayal from kin. Center gutted. Heart exposed. Yet in the parking lot, a gaggle of youth volunteers waited. Teens with signs. Harper lives. Love wins. One, a lanky kid named Jamal, hugged him. We got you, Mr. E. Starting a new chapter, Queer Youth Alliance. In his name, tears stung. The fire, banked but not out. Climax passed, but echoes lingered, rebuilding's true war. Spring crept into Atlanta like a cautious lover. Azaleas exploding pink along Peachtree. Dogwoods shedding petals like confetti at a second-line parade. The city shaking off winter's pall. 6 months post-funeral, and Elijah's life bloomed in fractures. The Harper Colonial sold. Proceeds seeding the Elijah Isaiah Initiative, a non-profit hybrid. Civil rights fused with LGBTQ+ advocacy. Housed in a midtown co-working space buzzing with queer coders and activist poets. Miriam volunteered there Tuesdays. Her sweet tea fundraisers drawing crowds. Her quiet acceptance the glue. Isaiah and Elijah's rhythm settled domestic. Mornings with coffee and crosswords. Evenings walking the beltline hand in easy hold. No more shadows. The cabin became theirs. Weekends of hiking Amicalola Falls. Grilling ribs to Coltrane vinyls. Love. Once a funeral crash. Now a steady hearth. But scars suppurated. Lorraine's silence was a ghost. Holidays unanswered. Her pew empty at Miriam's birthday mass. Ray faded to golf and gripes. The old board clinging to a sanitized center that hemorrhaged donors. Betrayal's echo. Family fractured. Legacy contested. One April Saturday. Elijah stood at the initiative's launch event. A block party in Sweet Auburn. Food trucks slinging mac and cheese and jerk chicken. A drag queen emceeing spoken word. Balloons bobbed in MLK Drive breeze. Kids painting rainbow fists on poster board. Isaiah manned the grill. Apron smeared. Laughing as he flipped burgers for a line of wide-eyed teens. "You built this," Isaiah said later, wiping sweat, pulling Elijah behind a bounce house for a stolen kiss. From ashes. Malcolm'd be grinning. Elijah leaned into him, the bass of a DJ set thumping. "We built it. You, me, Mom, even the ghosts." The high crested with a surprise. Malcolm's old friend, Professor Ellis from Morehouse, taking the mic. "Today, we honor not the icon, but the man flawed, fierce, loving beyond labels." He unveiled a plaque. Malcolm Harper, architect of hidden truths, father of open hearts. Engraved below, dedicated by his sons, Elijah and Isaiah. Sons. The word landed gentle, healing. Miriam teared up beside them, arm through Isaiah's. "Family," she murmured. But humanism's arc bent toward reckoning. That night, post-party, a knock at their apartment, Lorraine, unannounced, dinner, eyes hollowed by regret. I saw the news. The launch, Elijah tensed in the doorway, Isaiah hovering kitchenward. Aunt Lo. What? She clutched a manila envelope, trembling. Letters. From Malcolm to me, after you were born. He begged forgiveness for the lies he'd tell. Said loving Isaiah didn't diminish us, but I couldn't hear it. A sob escaped. I pushed the suit to punish him, even in death. Punish you. Elijah's chest ached. Forgiveness a crossroads. You broke us. The center. The family. She nodded, crumbling. I know. Therapy church mandated, it's peeling the hate. But I miss my nephew. My sister. Isaiah stepped forward, voice even. Hate's taught. Lo. Can be untaught. She met his eyes. First time without venom. Trying. Can I start? Miriam, summoned by text, arrived cab minutes later, enveloping her sister wordless. Hugs. Tears. The envelope opened. Malcolm's script. Pleas for grace. He loved you fierce, Miriam read aloud. All of you. The mending began tentative, Lorraine volunteering at the initiative. Awkward at first. Her casseroles a peace flag. Ray trickled in months later. A grumbled apology over coffee. The old deacon softened by grandkids questioning his old ways. Elijah and Isaiah's love deepened roots. A commitment ceremony that summer. Lakeside at the cabin, Miriam officiating with edited vows. Friends toasting under stars. No rings. Just promises whispered. Through betrayals. To truths. Climaxes dust settled humanistic. Not flawless utopia, but progress's patchwork. The initiative thrived. Scholarships for queer youth of color. Panels unpacking intersectional faith. Malcolm's plaque drew pilgrims. His full story archived online. Tapes narrated by Elijah. Podcast that went viral. One dusk. Fishing Lake Burton. Isaiah hooked a bass, whooping as Elijah netted it. Like old times, Isaiah said, baiting Elijah's line. Better, Elijah replied, casting. No hiding, the line sang through air, plopping true. As sun dipped, painting water gold, Elijah felt it, legacy not rewritten, but expanded. A father's hidden heart, a son's open one, love's quiet revolution. In Atlanta's hum, from Auburn's soul to Midtown's pulse, they cast forward, together, unbroken. Epilogue whispers years on, Elijah at a podium, gray threading his fade, Isaiah sketching in the wings. We don't bury truths, he tells the crowd, youth wrapped. We build on them. For Malcolm. For us all. The applause rises. A chorus of amens, new gospel, American as peach pie and protest marches. And in the quiet after, hand in hand, they walk into whatever storm comes, ready to rewrite again.